Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about Neca and their obstacles they need to overcome. Maybe this is a SWOT analysis with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, but I have a lot of good things to say about Neca. I love collecting their product, and I look forward to a lot of things that they have coming, that they're releasing, but I'm going to really have to be a little critical on some aspects here when it comes to this, but I do want to sing their praises where I can. But we're going to talk about this, we're going to discuss this, and I did have a buddy of mine that said that he felt they were in financial trouble themselves, but I actually personally think they're positioned very well to survive this collecting downturn. But we're going to discuss all of this and more coming up. First off, I want to say that there's a lot of stuff I'm not going to talk about. There's a lot of lines that they have that I won't be discussing, and they have revenue streams from many different areas that I won't be covering in this. So I'm just going to be talking about the lines I like the most, what they're doing well, and what their opportunities are with them. So with that, let's get into the first one. First off, I want to talk about the Back to the Future stuff that they make, and with that, my belief in this is that they aren't going deep enough. Although I love the fact that they make figures, there are six figures they've already released for this line, and some of the other stuff you see in here with the Toonie figures, which I don't think sold well at all. I got mine on clearance for $5 each, so that's kind of proof right there. And then they got some plush stuff, but I never ever saw this 1/6 scale time machine that's in this picture here, or the radio controlled one. Maybe I just didn't pay attention, I missed out on that. Here's another picture, a little grainy, but it kind of shows all the figures in the package. And one of the things is I think that this line was not very popular. It didn't sell well enough for them. It didn't meet their sales expectations for them to spend the money on the licensing of this. But if you look down there, that Marty that's in the yellow hazmat costume, uniform kind of stuff for the plutonium, the thing about that is that one's clearance to $9 at most targets. And that's proof that this line, well, it's proof of a few things, but it wasn't as popular as they expected. But I think it's because they didn't go deep enough with the characters. So when you look at this, there's all these characters and more that they could have made. Some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them, and it would have been nice to see a few more characters other than just basically 3 characters. Biff and Griff, and then several versions of Marty, several versions of Doc. But the weird thing in this is that this is another obstacle they have to overcome. They probably have to get the actor and actress, they have to get their likeness rights. They have to pay for those likeness rights to make those. So they pay for three likeness rights? Possibly. I don't know if that's the reason, but a couple things. Strickland also was the same actor that played the detective in the He-Man live-action movie from back in the day. So, collectors could be creative enough to use that figure in their He-Man display also. So there's other things that could have been done if they would have done a little bit more. Also, why not a Lorraine? They could repurpose their Elvira and maybe make the Lorraine Bane from the alternate 1985. There's a whole lot of other things that they could have done, but I feel at this point they just scrapped the entire project. And I guess this Doc Brown in the plutonium suit was the last one to get made. I never even saw this in stores or on BBTS. I can't find it. I don't see it around. Maybe this was one that you had to get straight from them. I don't know. But with that, does this mark the end of the line? So, let's talk about a different line, the Rambo line. Now, this one here, they no longer have the license for, is my understanding, and that's gone to Hiya Toys. And with that, some of these figures are climbing in value. But I want to say this. I would much rather buy a Rambo line for their price put of $35 than $90 for Hiya Toys. And with that, I would rather NECA have the license to this and continue making this. But why would they continue making it? All they're doing is just making different versions of Rambo, no other characters, and that's kind of crazy. I think that there's a way they could have made some of these Force of Freedom characters, not all of them, but made a couple of them just kind of throwbacks. They did use the sort of Force of Freedom packaging on one of theirs, but with that, there's so much more they could have done with this line. Of course, they could have done Troutman and a few others from the movie, but it would have been fun to see more happen with this line than they did, instead of just making Rambo in different costumes. So what kind of a collection are you putting together if it's all just the same character? We see the same issue with RoboCop. Here's a used lot that's sold of RoboCops. They're all the same thing, just recolored and a little bit different. But the problem with RoboCop isn't that RoboCop is a bad figure. It was limited in articulation because actually the character was limited in his own articulation because of the suit. But with it, there are so many more characters they could have made that they never did. So here's some of the characters. I mean, the list keeps on going down. But wouldn't it be cool to have a Clarence Boddicker? I mean, Red Foreman. You got to have a Red Foreman figure. But there's so many of these. Ann Lewis is a definite one that we need to get made. You could probably make the Bob Morton and the Dick Jones, two suited guys that have different heads. And there are so many things they could have done, but they choose not to do it. Sergeant Warren Reed. Reed was actually, I kind of believe Reed is a carryover into the cartoon also. But with that, there are more characters they could have made. Some of just the basic ones that would have definitely sold well. Bigsby Snyder, I'll buy that for $1. But they didn't go that deep. I'm sure it has something to do with likeness rights or something along those lines. There's got to be a way to do it and get around it. But instead, they're just making RoboCop over and over and over. Now, when it comes to their Terminator line, I actually think they went a lot deeper. And I personally had more fun collecting it because there were more figures and more characters. And there was a lot more going on with it. Now, this is another line that they sort of resurrected. They basically had the RoboCop license. And then it took them 5 or 6 years, 7 years, something like that, to put a RoboCop back out. Now, with this line, they did the same thing, but there was a shorter time frame between when they stopped making them and when they started making them again. And I don't understand the subtle nuances of their licensing agreements. But I got to say that I had a ton of fun collecting these. But I didn't just want to collect the same thing over and over. Next, start making a lot of other figures in this line, other than just Terminator over and over and over, like Rambo over and over and over, and just the 3 figures that they made with their Back to the Future. And that makes for a more interesting, fun toy line to collect. Even going deeper, making female characters, the Sarah Connor, John Connor, and there was a exclusive that John Connor had a motorcycle. There's a whole lot of stuff that they made with this line that made it a whole lot more fun. And with that, the deeper they go, the better it is. And I think the line is more interesting. Is there more appeal for Terminator than Back to the Future? Is Terminator a broader audience appeal than Back to the Future? I don't think so. Which brings us to future toy lines or current offerings that they have, and my biggest concern with them and an opportunity that they have is to go deeper on this toy line. So when you look at the Dinosaurs, this is a risk. They're taking a risk. Is there a huge market for this? Probably not a huge market. Here's the thing. That's why NECA exists. NECA exists to satisfy more of a niche market. I like to say niche market, but niche market. I really do think that they are catering to a much, much smaller crowd, meaning that they're not going to be selling millions of these. They're selling in the tens of thousands. Don't get me wrong, though. It's still tens of thousands. It's not like they're only selling 2,000 of these. And with this, I want to see more characters. But will we just get these? Will we get the Earl Sinclair and the baby saying not the mama? Because we're not going to get the mama? My expectation is that this short-run toy line that we got back in the day for the Dinosaurs, they should at least do more figures and more characters than what they did. Now, I know a lot of toy lines, they're not going to do more characters than what they did back in the day. We're about to talk about that next. But something like this, I don't see why they couldn't put out more characters than what we already saw back in the day. And I don't know if this is all inclusive in this picture here, but there's not many more than this that were made back in the day. NECA could do so much more with this line. The line that I really feel like they should flesh out, all 19 characters, is Dungeons and Dragons. And here's the reason why. Because there's only 19 characters. And with that, they can make all of these characters, and they will eventually sell. Now, I might be wrong on that, because I do see no trouble at all getting any of the first 4 figures that are out, and the 5th figure hasn't been released yet. But this is where my friend that's a shop owner says he can't move these products at all. He can't move these figures at all. But it also depends on the market and where you're at, because everybody that's reviewed them loves them, and everybody that I know that's bought them and has them in their collection loves them. But is that enough to sell tens of thousands of figures? Maybe not. Maybe that is where the problem is. As a fan of this, I want to see all the characters get made. I want to see all the figures get made. I also want to do a shout out to NECA for actually doing unreleased versions of the LJN. But see, this gets my mind going even further. Like, you make unreleased versions of LJN, I would like to see the minimum of just the 19 figures that are there. You're already on the way. You already have 5 of the characters in the pipeline. What about the other 14? I don't want to see Elkhorn to be the last of this line. And with that, I can't control what happens, and they have to do what's best for their business. But I think what's best for their business is to show that if you're going to start a line, you're going to finish it. Or you're at least going to go far enough with it to make it worthwhile for people to make an investment into buying these figures. But with that, going deep is only one part of the equation. Going deeper in this line, into each of these lines, is one part of the equation. The other part of it is the collectible aspect of this. And this is where you get into the value. What is the value of a NECA item? And I got to tell you that this RoboCop, not this one, actually the one that was released in 2011, was selling for over $100 all day long until this new one comes out. And I'm not upset about it at all. I'm happy to get the new one and enjoy it. And I have a 2011 version. It doesn't bother me at all. But here's what it starts to do, is it starts to affect value. And when collectors see that something that they buy and they think is a collectible and it has some value to it, and then the market gets flooded with a new version that's maybe even better, and what you have is no longer valuable, it does start making collectors think twice about buying your product as a valuable collectible. Now, all those people out there that are saying, I don't collect for value, I actually have a video for you coming, because that's one of the most hypocritical statements that I've ever heard, especially when the people that say I don't collect for value sell their collection. Yeah, we'll talk about that in another video. So I want to point this out. Value is not the only reason to collect, but it is a component of your collecting. And when it comes to something like this Kyle Reese, first of all, I didn't even know they made a Kyle Reese figure until I started researching for this video. But when you look at it, he's going for a lot of money because they didn't reissue him. And so you have a collection that's sort of empty. I guess mine is kind of empty because I don't have him. But with that, the fact that they continually reissue certain items and certain figures make the value of those go down and drop, yet this figure here doesn't get reissued, which I would buy one right away because I would want one in my collection, yet this one's still going for, in my opinion, stupid money. But this is what you saw for the average NECA figure that would come out, they would release it, it would sell for a while, and then they'd move on to something else. That was their old game plan, but their new game plan seems to be a little bit different, except for this figure for some reason. So I just spent some time here talking about how we need to go deep on these toy lines, or go deeper, so that they can generate more excitement, hype, buzz, and keep collectors around longer than just remaking one character 8 times. And with that, they did that really well with the TMNT line. But now I kind of feel like with TMNT, it's hitting a breaking point. There is a point at which only the hardcore collectors are keeping up with it all the way. It's real easy in the beginning when there's only like 10 figures. Okay, but now I do want to say that these figures look phenomenal. They are amazing, and I truly have trouble seeing them in the store and turning them down. When I see them in the store, and I can see them online and turn them down easy. But when I hold them in hand, see them in the store, I'm like, these just look so good. I have no idea who some of these characters are, but I still want to buy them. I super enjoyed the neutrinos. I thought that was really cool. There's a whole lot of other ones that I didn't even know about, though, as I knew about the neutrinos, but some of these other ones I didn't know about. And it's hard to say no when they look this good. That's another thing about NECA. They can get the real-life face sculpts perfect. They can nail that. They can also nail the cartoon perfect. But again, going back to the value play, that I can find a lot of this stuff from past holothons on eBay cheaper than in Target. And I can go to some Targets that have 3 or 6 of these packs still sitting there from 2 holothons ago, from last holothon. And with that, I'm sure that has something to do with the economy, but I think it has more to do with less collectors wanting to go this deep with TMNT. So are the days numbered for TMNT? Well, they're kind of spreading out into different avenues of TMNT, but I think they're getting really close to the end of the cartoon TMNT. They're going to continue trying to flesh out as many characters as they can. They're going to keep trying to squeeze as much from this rock as they can. But with it, it's still hard for me to say no, even though I tell myself I've tapped out, but I keep buying them anyway. Now, I do want to say a few things about NECA, and there was this question about quality and their perishable item or something along those lines. And with that, I have never broken a NECA figure. I see this one here has a broken wing or something. This figure went for $2. With a broken wing, I think it's still worth more than $2. But it's insane. $2 for this figure because it had a broken wing, I guess. but I haven't really had quality issues with them, and I think that maybe the earlier ones had quality issues. All right, so this lot here sold on eBay for $56, and I've got to say, this is just a combination of some stuff that people know and some people don't. When it comes to turtles, though, turtles are what sells. These side characters do not sell as well. That's just the way it is. And I'm arguing go deeper, but this is an argument against my argument of going deeper. So I kind of understand why NECA doesn't go super deep on every line, but this is their deepest line that I know of that they've made. This one here went for 68. That Rex is one that everybody seems to really like. With this lot went for 68. Rex himself, I'm sure, is worth the whole lot. But with that, their figures are starting to no longer hold value, and that is a concern. So most of what I've talked about is stuff that's happened in the past with NECA, and looking at NECA going forward, what is the future of NECA? And I got to say that they have two really good things going for them. Number one, the fact that price value for the majority of their figures, now this is BBTS, and they do charge a little bit more, a little bit of a premium to order BBTS, but if you get it at Walmart or Target, you find them for $35 to $37, depending on where you find them and which figure it is, but for the most part, $35 to $37. Still pretty pricey when you compare similar type of figures that Hasbro and Mattel and McFarlane make are in the $20 to $25 pocket. But with that, I still feel like you get the quality, you get just a really amazing sculpt and some great accessories. But with that, when you look at something like, say, the Gargoyles are massive figures, so you're getting much bigger figures. And I haven't seen the Dinosaur Earl St. Clair yet, so that's probably a big one too. But you get a value. You feel like you've got $40 worth of figure when you buy those figures. And they're still at Walmart for like $37, and Target same way. So with that, I think their price point is much better in comparing it to Super 7. You're getting a very similar product to Super 7's product, but Super 7 is charging $55, and they're charging around $35, $37. There's a premium here, of course, and I think their pricing structure is good. They are going to be able to sustain a downturn in the collecting because their pricing structure is decent. So their already established relationship with Target and Walmart and having a retail footprint. So the fact that they are at retail is a really good sign for the future. They can move their product through retail, which is much easier than trying to just do online retailers or just trying to do it on their own site. And I've got to say that I guarantee you they do way more volume at retail than they do on their own site. And with that, that bodes well for them going forward. I know Super 7 is trying to get into Walmart, and they've already got some stuff at Target, but with their Ultimates line breaking into Walmart, you're going to see that I don't think that $55 figures sell well at Walmart. Walmart is really a place that people are looking for steals of deals or low priced, everyday low price. 55 is not a low price. 40 is already pushing it, but they also have some figures that they get down to the $26 price point, like some of their monster figures that they put on a blister card. And so with that, they are very conscious of if they have a retail footprint, they need to have a retail price, and they have to have a retail price structure that competes with other competitors. I do like NECA products. I do kind of feel like they're tapering off. There's just less announcements, less stuff coming. And I'm wondering if we're going to see more from them in 2024 and if they're going to go deeper on any of these lines. And are they just going to abandon some of the lines? And it's funny, too, because you just don't hear them say, we're done with Back to the Future and we're done with any of these other lines. But you do hear, like, oh, yeah, guess what? We're bringing this back. We're bringing back not Rambo, but RoboCop. But I'm curious what you think about NECA. Have you noticed any of these trends with NECA? And are you collecting any of the NECA lines specifically, or do you just kind of pick and choose? Let me know in the comments below, like and subscribe, and Tiger Hanger out.